Welcome to our debate this evening. There will be 4 separate debates. The debate is sponsored by MassLandlords.net. First, we'll have candidates for state representative who are seated here, and I'll introduce them in a moment. Following them, we'll have candidates for state senate here, and then I'll introduce them. Then state auditor and lieutenant governor. The format is the same for each of the 4 debates. They'll start with an introduction, and their opening remarks, and then we'll go to questions. We have a timekeeper in the front. She will show them when they have a minute left for their response, in 30 seconds and 15 seconds, and then she'll show them time. When they say time, when she says time, if they don't stop, I promise to interrupt them, and we won't allow anyone to go forward. We have a very tight time schedule. If you want coffee, it's up in the back on the right. Please help yourself. I'm going to ask you to do me a favor, please. Everybody shut off your cell phones. I know that we can't live without them, but please shut off your cell phones or silence them so that we don't have to have our candidates interrupted. Before we started, we had a coin flip, and the candidates decided the order of their responses. We'll have one, then the other, and then we'll flip from question to question. Our 2 candidates. First, Doug Belanger. Doug has been volunteering throughout Worcester and Leicester for over 30 years. He currently serves as the treasurer of the WRTA, a member of the Worcester Advisory Commission, Airport Advisory Commission, and after serving as the town's Finance Advisory Board chairman for 10 years, has been elected and re-elected Leicester Selectman for the past 18 years. Our second candidate is Kate Campanale of Leicester, who was born and raised in the district. She is a graduate of Leicester High School and holds a degree in business management from Sweet Briar College. She brings a breadth of experience, including federal and state government, private sector business development, and has also taught in our public schools. All right. Now, with the opening statements, we're going to start with Ms. Campanale. 2 minutes.
So thank you to MassLandlords.net for hosting this event tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mariano, for moderating this forum for us. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I'm glad to be here tonight to participate. So why am I running? I'm running because I believe I can make a difference. I have the background, I have the experience, and I have the drive to make this happen. I've been passed on a strong work ethic from my parents, who are both small business owners and actually former property owners in Worcester as well. And, like many of you here, I've always had an interest in real estate, and which spurred me to get my real estate license here in Massachusetts just a few years ago. So now this election offers my community and my neighbors a choice between keeping the status quo and actually changing to bring some more balance and strengthening our community here. And that really only comes with some new action and some new leadership. And I have a plan for this. And working at the State House, I have the experience to engage our community from both sides of the aisle, to work with our businesses, our schools, our community leaders, and neighborhoods. And I understand the legislation process, and I really want to work to lift the regulations that are strangling our economy and encourage growth and restore confidence. I want to work with families who've had to cut their household spending, work with our children who are sharing textbooks in our schools, and working for our seniors who are trying to survive on fixed incomes. I have and will continue to work diligently every day to turn my passion into action and bring a fresh perspective to make this community great. And I look forward to sharing some thoughts through your questions here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Campanale. Now, Mr. Belanger. 2 minutes.
Thank you, Ray, and the Mass Landlords and your affiliates for holding this event tonight. I was born the third of 7 children and raised in Worcester, where my parents had a 3-decker on Freeland Street. And then as the family grew, they bought an old mill house in the Cherry Valley section of Leicester. And I started my work career at the age of 15 at the local Valley Market owned by the Goretti's family. At a young age, I was appointed the manager of that store, and eventually as that family chain grew, I became their store manager for all 4 stores by the age of 28. The following year, me and my partner opened up our own convenience store in Worcester. And by the age of 30, we had 3 small convenience stores and 1 full supermarket in our partnership, Suburban Supermarkets. I am a husband, a parent, a homeowner, and a taxpayer. My wife Donna and I will be celebrating our 28th anniversary next week. Thank you, Donna, for all the years. And I'm happy to say we have 2 fully employed adult children. One, Michael at 24, and my daughter Nicole at 26, I'm sorry. As the moderator, I just made her older. As the moderator said, I've been volunteering throughout Worcester and Leicester for over 30 years. During that time, I've served as an advocate, a mediator, and a problem solver. And I'm ready to do the job from day one because I have actually been doing the job. I've drafted legislation, I've built coalitions, I've lobbied, testified, and been in positions of authority that have withstood scrutiny and have withstood the test of time. Thank you, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Now to our questions. There are 2 questions in the first section. Each will have 2-minute responses. The first question we'll start with Mr. Belanger is on affordable housing. Most housing authorities across the state have very lengthy waiting lists. In Worcester, the Housing Authority has more than 12,000 applicants, many of them homeless, and some who have been on the waiting list for more than a decade. What would you do to reduce that backlog and help those families find housing? 2 minutes, Mr. Belanger.
Thank you. Well, first, Ray, I would support your Better Life program. Not just because you're the moderator, but because I think it's a great program. I live by, I brought up my children by, I ran my businesses by, and I've negotiated contracts by taking the best of both, saying there's positive incentives for doing things right and negatives, let's say, for doing things not so right. I'd also work and identify property in Worcester and Leicester that need rehab. They're either abandoned or they've been repossessed, they're in foreclosure and so on. And create housing zones that would work with our CDCs, work with the landowners, the corporations, the contractors, to be able to expedite through the process, working with the city government, to open those houses up, to get those built. CDCs have done a great job over the years, but they often don't get the support they need. And in that, it is also about expediting permitting. Because again, empty, abandoned houses, going by some rules that are cumbersome and time-consuming, keep them off the market. That adds to our homelessness, adds to the abandoned buildings, adds to all the issues we want to talk about. So combined with that, working with the city delegation, the city government, and the builders and contractors, you'd be able to do this. Thank you.
Ms. Campanale, 2 minutes.
Well, as I had stated back in August at our first debate, I also supported your Better Life program. I believe it's a great program to actually give preference to people who want to work, who want to better their lives. And I think that really breeds a great environment and stronger community, and really breaks the cycle of people who have unfortunately been in public housing for many generations. And I think what's most important too is also to, make sure we have the jobs as well. And I think altogether, making sure people have the want to work and giving them that incentive and opportunity will really better the lives of those in public housing and maybe set an example for the community as well.
Next question is on economic development. It goes to Ms. Campanale. What specific plans would you propose or support to spur economic growth in Greater Worcester?
One program that Worcester has in place already, more on the housing level, is I believe that Housing Development Incentive Program, which actually which many of you may be aware of, takes existing property as is, and the property owner comes in, fixes it up, puts a lot of work and money into it to increase the property value and actually get tenants into the building. And instead of slapping the owner with a tax bill right away, they're able to, spread it out over a period of years. And if we can take this housing development incentive program and create this on a corporate level, like a corporate incentive development program, put some of these vacant buildings in Worcester back to work. One business comes in, that will bring another business in, it brings customers, it brings jobs, and it spurs development. And that's something we desperately need.
Mr. Belanger, 2 minutes.
Thank you. I believe the question was related to spurring economic development. And as the chairman of our Economic Development Committee, I've been doing that for a number of years now. Part of my ability to, back from earlier business to now working with organized labor, we're able to build coalitions that would have training for those students or those young folks, let's say, that aren't college bound for whatever reason. And then taking the chronically unemployed and creating a program that has internships with relationships between business and labor to be able to learn a trade. It would not only spur economic growth, you earn as you learn, you are gaining something that will become a better job than you might have had prospects for, but you also have a hope to stay out of trouble, let's say, and to stay in the system because you're gaining, you're growing, you're learning a trade, and you're breaking a cycle. And so that's immediate economic growth. It's tangible. It's something we can do. Also, Worcester has the Start Up Worcester through the Chamber of Commerce that has a program they're kicking off that has to do with almost a Shark Tank idea, taking our college grads and giving them incentives. They present a program, they present an idea, and you reward that through the chamber and private enterprise with helping them start up that business. So you have reasons for our college students to stay and grow, and you have reasons for those youth that are not college bound and for those that were chronically unemployed. That will stimulate economic growth.
Okay, the next section are property and property owner related questions. The candidates will have 1 minute to respond. The first question goes to Mr. Belanger. Massachusetts is the only state, or one of the only states in the country, that requires landlords and property managers to wait 30 days to assess late fees. House Bill 1670 would allow a late fee to be assessed after 10 days. Do you support this bill? Why or why not? Mr. Belanger.
Thank you. I think overall, as a negotiator, I don't just jump on the first offer. So I'd be reluctant to just jump on and say, yep, 10 days. I would like to talk about and really negotiate and perhaps amend the process to have a growing stage. When I was a little younger, when my parents were still here, they had a tenement house they bought from across the street. But they moved to Florida, and I became a quasi-landlord, not by choice. And it comes down to, I think there's a piece of this that says, if we can find the best solution where we're not adding to the burden of the tenant and making the place empty, but having a positive incentive, as I mentioned earlier with more time, that said that you could have a positive as in rent rewards or reductions for being on time and a stage of penalties for if you're late.
Thank you. Ms. Campanale, 1 minute.
Yes, I do know this bill. I've actually read it and understand it. And for what it does is take the 30 days until you can charge a late fee and move it to 10 days. And I would absolutely support this because I know as a landlord, you have a mortgage to pay too, which you have usually a 15-day grace period. And if you're letting a tenant go 30 days without assessing a late fee, well, you could be late on your mortgage as well. And I think we really need to have that balance that landlords or property owners have the same rights or, equal rights as tenants.
Thank you, Ms. Campanale. All right, the next question goes to Ms. Campanale. Worcester has a large number of undergraduate and graduate students, but according to the Worcester Municipal Research Bureau, only half of the graduates plan to stay in Massachusetts and only 18% in Worcester. Half of the students cited the, quote, look and feel, unquote, of Worcester's neighborhoods as a major reason for not staying. What can you do about this?
Well, first we should take a look at Worcester and why they're coming in. Worcester is a big service community. We offer, one of our greatest services that we offer are our education and our healthcare. And this is what's bringing the students in. They're coming in, they're getting jobs here in the city, they're spending money. But they're leaving the state because we're not offering the jobs here as well. I'm not sure it's exactly the look and feel as well. But they have better opportunity and out of state. I know this from being in school out of state, and actually I worked in DC for a while as well. And to have a lower cost and better job opportunities out of state, we need to make sure we have those here in Worcester.
All right, thank you, Ms. Campanale. Mr. Belanger.
Thank you. The WRTA has started a program, and we have the largest fleet of all-electric buses. We've modernized and gone with a program that will spread the campuses into our city. That's the beginning of a process. We need to have the disconnect of just being campus only versus somewhere out there as Worcester to having that bridge. And so we've started to do that as treasurer of the WRTA. I'm very proud of that program, and it's just growing. At the same time, part of the program, as I mentioned, with Worcester Start, having businesses and business incentives for our students, having internships for both students and others, to keep growing, to create that network, that bond, that pride that says, you know what, I'm here in Worcester, I'm going to stay in Worcester, I'm going to build a business in Worcester or start my family in Worcester. Thank you.
Let me just stop for 2 seconds and tell the folks that are standing in the back, we've got seats over here, we've got seats in the front. If you want to come down and take a seat, please feel free to do that. All right, the next question, 1 minute, goes to Mr. Belanger. Because of the scandals involving widespread shoddy practices on behalf of major banks filing for foreclosures, Massachusetts and other states boosted regulations. One of the results is an increase in the number of abandoned properties that sit unoccupied in a neighborhood for a long time before those properties can be put up for sale. According to an article published in the Worcester Telegram, Worcester County has ranked in the top 10 in the country in these properties. What can you do to reduce the time properties remained abandoned? Mr. Belanger.
Thank you. Well, one of the things they forgot to do was the other half of the equation. As they strengthen regulations, which in some ways was a necessary evil, they didn't strengthen the regs to do with foreclosure prevention, and that's where one of the pieces needs to be tightened up. But separately from that, there is also, in most states, a mediation process that really helps prior to foreclosure and has some teeth to it. And unfortunately, Massachusetts is fairly weak on that also. So a combination of those things, I would give some teeth and strength to that. I would advocate and promote such programs. I would also then tie back to everything I talked about, the CDCs and the incentives to be able to develop that property and save it to get it off the empty market.
Okay. Ms. Campanale, 1 minute.
Okay, sure. I see a lot of these abandoned homes in neighborhoods throughout Worcester as you're going door to door nearly almost every day. So I can see the direct effect these are having to our neighborhoods as well. What I think the problem here is too is that so many of these cases are tied up in federal court, and much of this is the reason because they went to a paperless system. I believe it's MERS. And for the electronic filing. So, it's very difficult for the courts and the cities to keep track of who actually holds the mortgage note. And so this is a problem in the federal courts and working through that electronic system. That's something we have to work through.
The final section, the responses are 1.5 minutes in length. Ms. Campanale, the first question goes to you. There have been several tragic examples of failure by the Department of Children and Families, DCF. What needs to be done to ensure that this agency operates effectively and that vulnerable children are protected?
Yes, this is a pretty hot issue, and I believe what we can do in DCF is to increase technology. I think we can take steps to make it more efficient. Talking to social workers, they don't have the technology such as, say, like iPads or iPhones to be able to keep track of their paperwork. And I think to make a more efficient system for them and make it much easier. I know they're visiting a child on a house visit. They are having problems. They have to take them to the hospital. Well, they've just, they're backlogged now on all their casework. Also, I think to, help with some of the abuse as well is to, with this technology, you go for a house visit, you're able to, take a picture of the kid, the surroundings, and be able to upload that maybe right on a database. And using some technology and innovation, I think would really help in the DCF.
Thank you, Ms. Campanale. Mr. Belanger, 1.5 minutes.
We failed those children, all of us did. We did so because there is, I think, an easy reference to we need to run our government agencies more like a business. And that's kind of easy to say and sometimes hard to argue with. But in reality, when I ran my first retail stores, it was in the last recession. And when business backed off a little bit and I had less customers, I bought less product because the customer was buying less. And I used less help because I needed less help. And business can do that. And as tough as that was, I worked a lot more and so did my family. But you know what? That's what you do in a business. It's just the reverse in an agency that takes care of children, especially troubled families and kids with issues that need a lot of attention. So what happens? We take an agency in this recession, we reduce their resources, but we increase their caseload. That's the opposite of what you do in business. And so what happened is the inevitable crisis. We caused that, all of us, because we should stand up for our courage of our convictions. We should hold our elected officials accountable. And when these kinds of things happen prior to the tragedy, say, you know what? No, in this case, I'm willing to pay a little more. I want more accountability, more efficiency. But you know what? Take care of those children.
Thank you, Mr. Belanger. The next question goes to Mr. Belanger. Last year, the legislature passed and the governor signed a welfare reform bill. Are there additional steps that should be taken to protect against fraud and abuse of public benefits?
Well, I'm sure there are, because we're never really going to be done. It's human nature. I will say that after an I-Team report about a year ago, our state government figured out that there was more fraud than they thought, but because we were sending EBT cards, mailing them and transferring them electronically to Florida, Texas, and there were 4,000 people after that I-Team report taken off the rolls. At the same time, I am not one of those that takes the stories of all the terrible, welfare Cadillac mom or whatever it is, because I don't buy that either. There are people that I've met every day, not only through this campaign, but through all the things I do helping socially in this community, that need and deserve those benefits. So you protect them by getting rid of the fraud. I appreciate the new legislation that requires picture IDs. I appreciate that now they're screening more electronics so that we don't mail out of state. If any, you can use you have the right as an American to spend your money where you want once you get it, but you can't live out of state and have us take care of you. So there's a balance here. We've gotten better at it, and I'm sure there's more to be done.
Ms. Campanale?
Okay. The welfare reform bill was a great start. I think there's still a lot more that can be done. And first and foremost, we do have to make sure that the people who need the benefits do get them. I'm proud to say that I worked with Shauna O'Connell on a number of her amendments and issues in trying to reform the welfare system. And part of it is we are there's not much accountability either, and I think that's something that we really need to strengthen as well and make sure that our legislators are standing up for this reform as well.
Thank you. All right, the last question that we have on the list is my favorite. We'll start with you, Ms. Campanale. Tell me an idea proposed by your opponent that you would consider adopting if you got elected.
That is a great question.
I know, I wrote it.
Well, I guess I would have to say that I haven't, I'd be happy to take a closer look at some more and see where there is a bill that we can compromise on, but there's not one at the moment.
All right, Doug, you got the Zippo.
Piece of cake.
All right. Doug, your response. Tell me an idea proposed by your opponent that you would consider adopting if you get elected.
Well, I would first say that after 30 years of being scrutinized in public life, there has to be something that, if I were in the opposition, I would find that made sense. In fact, just for everybody's sake, Kate, you did agree with me when I proposed the budget in the town meeting, this most recent town meeting, and you voted with me. So just to help you out there. Myself, after 30 years, like I said, I've had few regrets. I mean, certainly things when you look at in hindsight in any part of your life, you got to be thinking, boy, I would have done that different if I knew what I know now, kind of thing. But I will tell you that in this case, with no available record of my opponent that I can find an actual vote other than the one I just mentioned, and that would be agreeing with myself, so that doesn't make any sense. It really comes down to, I don't make agreements, don't enter into agreements without knowing specifics. Simple campaign slogans or the usual rhetoric of we need change or we're going to do things better or we're going to lower taxes as we increase spending, I don't buy, I don't support, and I really don't find any details. If indeed there is a detailed paper, if indeed we could be supplied with a detailed paper, I work bipartisan. The 18 years as a selectman is a bipartisan job, so I don't have a problem with the issues. I don't have a problem with the right or the left. If I agree with it, I'll fight with it with passion, regardless of where you come from. But I won't agree to something that just doesn't have any details. Thank you.
So to summarize, she doesn't like anything he said, and he doesn't like anything she said. All right. That concludes the questions that we have for the candidates. How about a nice round of applause for both of them?
Thank you.
All right, kiddo.
Okay.